Welcome to the 76 Capital Leadership Series. My name is Wayne Kimmel, and I'm your host and managing partner of 76 Capital, the sports tech venture capital fund. On this show, I interview top sports entrepreneurs, athletes, and executives who are truly shaping and many times changing the sports industry. I want to give a quick shout out to my producer back at the station, Ty, who's making all the things happen, pushing all the bright buttons. And Ty, doing a hell of a job back there. You can follow me on Twitter at Wayne Kimmel, and definitely follow 76 Capital across all of the social media outlets, as well as subscribing to our podcasts and subscribing to our YouTube channel, where you can find all of our videos and our 76 Capital Leadership Series. So remember, if you're an entrepreneur and you're building a company in the sports industry, and you're trying to do the next thing, whether that's in sports betting, whether that's in esports, whether that's in sports media, or just the overall sports tech industry, please reach out to us, because we would love to talk to you and see if there are ways that we can partner. Now let's get to it. Today's guest is Justin Papadakis. Justin is the COO and Chief Real Estate Officer at USL. Justin, welcome to our 76 Capital Leadership Series.
Hey, Wayne, thanks for having me on today.
What we do with all of our guests, and we want to hear from you as well. We want to hear your backstory. We want to hear how you became the COO and Chief Real Estate Officer at the USL. So if you could share a little bit of your background, where you grew up, and were you always a soccer player, or what was your background?
Yeah, thanks, Wayne. So like a lot of my colleagues at the USL League office, we played growing up. So I think we really have a special appreciation for the game, and most importantly for our players. So when I was playing at Duke, and in my senior year, I went over and saw the LA Live project. And so for your listeners who haven't been there, it's, I think one of the true seminal sports and entertainment, downtown projects that really showed the potential of the stadium anchored entertainment district. And so coming out of Duke, I knew I wanted to get into sports someday, and I really thought that sports entertainment districts could be, one of the ways that I could make a big contribution. So at first I wanted to get a more general real estate background. So worked for a company called DDR, which is now called Site Centers, and they are and were one of the largest open air power center developers. So think Walmart, Target, TJ Maxx anchored shopping center. And so they had around 500 properties around the country. And so really got to see the kind of the fundamentals of real estate and real estate finance. And so that kind of coincided with, 7 years of working at DDR, of doing night law school, which again really helped me. I knew it was going to be fundamental to real estate and really fundamental to hopefully, running a sports league. During that time, my family, along with our partner, Rob Hoskins, who also is in the real estate business, acquired USL. And so the league was a lot smaller back then, had a handful of employees, teams were, $50,000, $100,000. And fast forward to today, and, our teams are trading upwards of $70 million, and we have $3.5 billion of real estate anchored projects under development, and a couple billion more coming in the second half of 21. So a lot's happened, and hopefully we can unpack some of that today.
Absolutely. And Justin, look, I want to take you back a little further. I mean, I guess playing at soccer at Duke, that's legit. That's pretty high level. Where did you grow up, and where did you play in high school? And was soccer something that was always in your blood from when you grew up?
Well, I was really fortunate. I think I was a good player, but I had a great coach in my dad. My dad was a great player. And so, I was really fortunate in that respect. I had my dad is my best friend and boss now, and formerly a coach. So I had him growing up. And then during high school, I moved over to Portugal and in Lisbon and played with Benfica with their academy team, and before going to Duke. So really had the experience of playing youth soccer in the United States, youth soccer abroad, and it's with a lot of that experience in mind. How we've really invested into our academy system in at the USL. And when you look at 2026 and when the World Cup's going to be here in the United States, and as a little kid, I was at the '94 World Cup, to see the difference in where soccer has gone over that period, it's so exciting. And from the professional all the way down to the youth, there's big things happening in soccer in the United States, and it's an absolute pleasure to be a part of that every day.
That's really exciting. So where did you grow up? What state in the U.S. did you grow up?
So grew up in Atlanta. And so it was, we had a really, strong youth soccer scene in Atlanta, and you can see, what it's become since then on the pro side, one of the premier soccer, cities in the United States. And I think we have, those types of cities all across the country now that are just, they haven't had professional soccer. And once you bring them professional soccer, just like Atlanta, you can see the reaction of fans, and it's so exciting. And a big part of what we do every day is bringing new expansion teams to cities, building new venues, and to see that electricity that happens once you bring a professional team to a city. It's really exciting, and one of my favorite parts of my job.
Well, it's really exciting to have you on our 76 Capital Leadership Series. We have Justin Papadakis with us. Justin is the COO and Chief Real Estate Officer at the USL. You can follow Justin at Justin Papadakis on Twitter, at Justin Papadakis. So I think, I really want to get into the league. I want to get into what you're doing right now. Maybe for our listeners and for our viewers across our 76 Capital Leadership Series, to really just share with everyone, the USL today, where it is, how many teams are in the league today. I know there's a women's side of it, and you have a whole youth side of it. Kind of share what everything, all the different pieces that you have as part of the USL today.
Sure. So as I mentioned, when we bought the league, there was a handful of people, and now we're running up over 80 just at the league office. So we have a number of different properties. We have 2 professional men's properties with a championship in League One, and with those we have 35 teams, and that will go upwards of 60 over the next three to 4 years, and so building 35 new stadiums along with that. Then we have at the collegiate level, so essentially all the best collegiate players during the summer. They play on the men's side in our League Two, and we have over 90 franchises in that league. We've really exciting, just announced starting next year will be the women's equivalent called the W League. And I think we'll start off with 30 to 50 teams in that league. And then below that, we have our Academy League, which we have a couple thousand players, and that's growing very, very quickly. And all of our professional teams going forward will have full academies underneath them. And so that's really exciting for the development of soccer at the youth level in the United States. And below that, we have the Super Y League, where we have about 12,000 players. And so it's a big enterprise. We do 3.5 million plus tickets a year between our pro properties. We have 900 plus live events on ESPN. And so there's a lot going on, but it's so exciting to come to work every day because the league is growing so fast, and that's really a staple of the USL.
Well, Justin, it really is exciting. And, you talk about the USL and all the different teams and all across the country here. And, you mentioned how is the league structured? Is each team owned and operated by the a local owner, or is it, how does it work? Because, we've had a number of different, groups on our show, whether it was the PLL and how that's all one league, and and just how does the USL work?
So the USL works in a lot of respects very similar to other pro leagues, where each team is individually owned, and one of the key areas and reasons for our growth has been extremely committed and passionate ownership group that we've been able to attract to the USL, and that believe in our value proposition, and they believe in where, as an enterprise, where we're going. And so that's critically important. What we have done at the USL is take at the league office is invest a significant amount of money in making sure that we have a first-class league office. So as I mentioned, we're 80 plus, probably, be at 100 over the next, 8 to 10 months. And so we staff at a very high level, and we want to make sure all aspects of our from the on the field side to off the field side is optimized, and that's a big part of it. We've also, one difference in other leagues, and just because we have a lot of growth as part of our league, is that my chief real estate officer side is the league takes a very proactive role in our stadium developments. So over the past 4 or 5 years, me and my real estate team, we've gone out and started working on 35 to 40 stadium developments across the country. And so we will take that, every project's a little bit different, but in general terms, we take it pretty far down the line, get the land assembled, start working on the financing package, bring the stakeholders together, and then an ownership group will come in on the back end. So that aspect's a little bit different, but it's one of the reasons I think we've had so much success on the expansion, is that we're getting the stadium piece right, and really becoming an investable league from a municipal standpoint. And that's resulted, like one of our many projects, but in Rhode Island, to be able to do 3, 4, and now with Iowa, $500 million projects.
That's fantastic. It's really great to hear how you're able to, in a way, sort of prime the pump, get things ready for that ownership group. I mean, 35 new, real estate developments in whatever industry, that's a big deal. 35 new stadiums, 35 to 40, as you said earlier, that's pretty incredible, Justin. I mean, when you're putting this together, I mean, one of the big things that we're all about at 76 Capital is thinking about innovation and how entrepreneurs are really pushing the things forward and doing things differently. When you look at some of these developments, wearing your chief real estate officer hat, I mean, what are some of the new and innovative things that you're now doing, and when you build these 35 plus new stadiums?
Well, it's a reason I'm a listener of your show, is because I think we like to think of our company, as sort of like, in the technology companies, you have platforms. That's what we really try to think of ourselves from a league perspective on a lot of our commercial initiatives, as a platform. So once our teams can have, we have the stadium, then it's about programming the stadium, whether it's men's soccer games or women's soccer game or concerts or lacrosse or yoga or national team watch parties. We try to really program, and that really flows through our whole commercial side, because we're all about developing content. The data capture side is very obviously conducive to all of that. So that's what we really try to think about, is how do we create synergistic platforms within our stadium developments so that each element of our development, really feeds the stadium. So with soccer, for example, we have the benefit of being a sport that has a 2-hour fixed window, which is really important because when people are deciding to go down to a game, they know that they can go out to eat. They know the game starts at 7. They know it ends at 9, and they can make plans to go out to the bars and restaurants right around the game after the game. So those are things that we really try to sync up in terms of how we program the rest of the development from a use perspective, from a parking perspective, to really optimize that for our stadium development.
Well, it certainly makes a lot of sense, and I'm sure for your partners and owners of each of the different franchises, to have you and your team behind them and helping them makes probably their life a lot easier as an owner in the league.
Well, that's where I think we can bring value, and I would add an area that I'd point out in particular is our technology group. So a lot of your listeners have great new technology platforms. One of the hurdles has been, in our experience, is that our teams just don't. We have a 30-person technology and digital group, so we have the bandwidth and the expertise to really vet new technology platforms. As a lot of your listeners know, it's not just about having a great new piece of technology. It's making sure that that technology really fits into our overall tech stack. And so what our technology group does is vet those technologies, and they think about, of course, what's happening this year. But as in all technology, we really have to look out over the next 3 to 5 plus years to think about where our teams will be and what are the kind of macro areas that we need to make sure that we build that infrastructure around to support these new technology services. And so, you mentioned off the top, we really pride ourselves on being hopefully, a league that's more nimble, that can implement new technologies faster. So for your listeners who, want to get into a league that's on ESPN, that's a really established league, but that can move fast, I hope they, will call USL because we're really progressive on the technology side, and we really want to be, a thought leader, because I think we can move a lot faster than some of the, tier 1 leagues like the NFL and NBA.
Well, we got to make sure that all of our listeners and viewers have your information. So you can find Justin at Justin Papadakis on Twitter, all across the internet as well. You can find him on LinkedIn. We found him all great information about you, Justin. And it's amazing how you're really putting yourself out there and also talking about all the different innovations and new technologies and just new way of thinking in running the USL. So I got to give you a lot of credit for that. And when you sort of look to the future, what will things look like? I mean, when you onboard these 35 new franchises with 35 new stadiums, what do you think the next 10 plus years are going to look like for the USL?
Well, an area that I think is going to have the most change is going to be driven by sports betting. It's, to me, one of the most exciting structural changes to happen to sports in the United States. And I think what you'll see is these sports betting companies really building large platforms and capturing and rolling up a lot of adjacent businesses. And so it's really exciting to see where that's going, and look especially with digital. You can click on someone's shoes and buy them in game. You can click on a seat and buy tickets. You can, if you do a prop bet, you can get an AI generated video highlight automatically sent to you of that event happening. So and then with data, the visualization of data and the really in-depth data, because of the new cameras that are coming out that can track player speed and hundreds of different metrics, it's really, really exciting. And it'll change sports. And I think particular with soccer, because of how youth focused our demo is, I think you'll see this gamification of the sport in a really exciting way, which will drive dollars through sponsorship and other ways, but also just engagement in the sport. And there are just really exciting things coming, and huge opportunity for your listeners that want to be part of these tech stacks and work with Genius Sports and Sport Radar and some of these other companies, really doing some exciting roll-up strategies right now.
Well, certainly, you touched on something that's near and dear to my heart and everything that we do at 76 Capital in the sports betting industry. I mean, we, similar to what you said, really believe that, sports betting has definitely really given the sports industry, an extra, level of lift right now. It's really interesting to see. And, certainly in the way sports betting, how important it is to the game of soccer outside of the U.S., to see that now happening here in the U.S. with your league is really exciting. Are you going to create similar kind of partnerships that other leagues have done, where you have sports betting partners at the league level and then have the teams enable them to do their own partnerships as well?
So we're definitely having a lot of conversations about that with our ownership group. The next 3 years, I think it'll probably have to be like that because of the state by state nature of the legalization of the rollout right now. It'll probably take 1 to 3 years to have effectively a national strategy. A lot is going to happen during that 3 years. Our focus is always, how do we have the highest commercial value for our teams? And so whether that's through a national partner or one national partner or individual local partners, we'll make a decision based on what's in the team's best interest. But I think on the short to medium term, in sports betting terms, I think that's 1 to 3 years. That'll be more individual deals, but there'll be more league level deals with along the lines of data rights.
Got it. Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that certainly is also very interesting to us and is one of the top video games out there is FIFA, right? I mean, it's one of the most most played games out there. What is your position on esports, and how does that play along with your league at the USL? I mean, certainly you go all the way down to the youth level up to the top professional players on the women's side as well. So where does esports and video gaming play into your overall plans?
Well, I think esports is really exciting. For at the USL side, we want to have strategies that we can engage with our fans and stakeholders on a 12-month basis. So I think esports will be a part of that. We have some really great thought leaders and innovators coming into esports, and I think the more great people we have thinking about it, there'll be more opportunity for traditional sports and leagues like USL to be part of that larger movement.
Well, I just got back from Las Vegas, Justin, and you have a team out there, the Las Vegas Lights, and we have a number of our friends who have been involved with the organization. At one point they did one of the first bet casts. Our portfolio company VEASAN did that with the Las Vegas Lights. Talk about that organization. You mentioned Atlanta, some of the other franchises right now that are some of your sort of bright light top franchises that you're excited about, that hopefully these next 35 will look up to and be like in the future.
Well, I think Vegas has done some really innovative things. Again, you can see how sports betting can really change so many aspects of the game, and the viewing experience will be drastically different. In terms of the larger league, I think what we've seen is markets like New Mexico and our team in Albuquerque, really no history of soccer in a meaningful way at the youth level, the collegiate level. They had some good teams, but not a strong culture of soccer. Within a year of our team coming in New Mexico, they're doing 15 to 20,000 people. And it's not only how many people are at the game, but the electricity among the fans and the passion of the fans at the game is just, it's so exciting to see that. When you look around the country, I think that's what we're going to be doing. We're bringing in great ownership groups, and you'll really see over the next of the balance of 2021, some very similar groups in smaller cities, larger cities, bringing professional soccer with great stadium venues. And what that means is we're elevating the game and bringing more people who didn't have access to professional soccer on a day-to-day basis, that they can go and have a first-class fan experience, all the way down to the youth side, where now the academies can be part of a larger club. So it's super exciting. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, when we look out over the next 3-4 years, the amount of fans that are proximate to a professional soccer team is going to increase by 35, and that will have huge ripple on effects down the road, when people can just experience live, high quality professional soccer on a day-to-day basis.
Well, I have a bunch more questions I want to ask. I don't want to take too much of your time. I know we're starting to wind down our time on our 76 Capital Leadership Series. We have a great guest today. It's Justin Papadakis. He is the COO and Chief Real Estate Officer. I was almost going to say legal officer too. He's also a lawyer, so he can have that title as well from me, just for now, unless you want to give that to someone else. But Justin, it's been amazing to hear this. And you talked about your youth side of it and the youth academy. I mean, I think one of the things I'd love to hear, is how that works together with the pro leagues. And are you building what, kind of the way things work in Europe today? Or are you bringing that here to the US? I'd love to hear your thoughts around that.
Well, one of the unique things about soccer, and it doesn't exist in any other sport, is a direct connection between the professional side and the youth and the youth side. And so that's why we call our teams clubs, not teams, because it is really a club. And so what we've tried to think about is, how can we provide a platform for these amazing kids to develop into professional players. And so we have to look at it holistically. The coaching, the training environment, the educational aspect. So we just announced a really exciting deal with Bellevue University that will give one free full year scholarship per year to our teams. And so and then the training and the recovery outside of being a professional. And so when you have young players who can watch their professional counterparts, how they eat, how they train, how they work out, how they recover from injury on a day-to-day basis, and in many cases train with the professional players, that's how you get to a situation more like Europe, where the youth player really advances. At Benfica, very often, almost on a weekly basis, we would train with the first team players, and so that's what we're getting to here in the United States, and that's why I think your first time you'll really see the true effects of this will be in the 2026 World Cup, because now just in the USL, we have, over 1,000 playing positions. We're going to add essentially another 1,000 professional playing positions over the next 3 to 4 years. So that's, 2,000 opportunities for players. That's hundreds more coaching jobs and thousands of front office jobs for people like myself who played in the game and now want to stay in the game, but on the business side. And so that's how we create this ecosystem that I think will really show results on the field, because we have all of these off the field structural issues that we've corrected. And now we put them on a pathway to really start producing players at the world level, like we do in all the other sports in the United States.
And you're not only doing that on the men's side, you're doing it on the women's side as well with the W League. So maybe touch a little bit on the W League and where you see that's going, where that goes, and is there also the youth program as well there as well?
So gender equity is something that's a core part of our league, and so we wanted to make sure we could do it right. And with the announcement of the W League, that is a first step for us. And I think there'll be more to come, which is exciting. We also had our first academy. The girls' academy participated in our recent academy event. And so we're going to keep mirroring the men's side over to the women's side and down to the girls' side. There's no doubt that the American women soccer players and girls soccer players are the best, if not one of the best in the world. And with what we're building, as I mentioned, this platform across the country, we want to showcase that talent, and we want to invest in the women's game. And so I think you'll see, more to come for us in this space. We're excited about it, and looking forward to the W League launching in 2022.
Oh, that's exciting. And Justin, I have to ask you, so what's it like working with your dad? I'm jealous. I wish that I had that opportunity. But it must be exciting. You mentioned earlier he was your coach when you're growing up, and now you're working together and building the USL together. That must be amazing.
Well, it is. I think he's someone I've been so close to growing up, and had a even more special relationship, as he was my coach. And when he had a great legal career and business career and wanted to do something in soccer. And if one of the things I respect most about my dad is how he measures success is what I mentioned earlier. The amount of professional jobs that we've created, the amount of coaching jobs, front office jobs, and also within our league office, the great men and women that I am so fortunate to work with every day. And then when we look at the financial impact that we're making in our cities with the billions of dollars of development happening. So that's how my dad measures success. That's the values that he's instilled in me and instilled in our company. And so to get to work with someone who I think he's a visionary in our sport, has made such an amazing contribution to our sport, and get to call him my boss and my dad is pretty special.
Well, it's been really special having you on the show, Justin. We wish you a ton of luck. I love all the things that you're working on today. You're welcome. And I mean, it's amazing. And just where you are today with the USL, where you're going with the 35 new locations and franchises across the country. I mean, it's super exciting. And I wish you a ton of luck, and hopefully, I'll get a chance to meet you and in person. We'll go to a game together, and that'd be amazing.
That'd be great. Love to do it, and big fan of your show. And I know you have a lot of listeners with some great new technology platforms. And again, it's a fun time to be in sports, and especially on the technology side, so many changes. And so, appreciate you doing what you do on the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you again, Justin. Again, it's been Justin Papadakis, our guest on our 76 Capital Leadership Series. And make sure you follow Justin at Justin Papadakis on Twitter. And remember, just like Justin just said, if you're an entrepreneur, you're an athlete, you're a student or a business person who truly wants to either work in a startup or wants to work at the USL and do some amazing things with what Justin's doing right now, or start a company in the sports industry, reach out to me, reach out to Justin. We can find ways to help each other and really do some special things within the sports industry. So once again, I'm Wayne Kimmel, and thanks for tuning in for this edition of our 76 Capital Leadership Series. And of course, remember, go out there and go make it happen.